Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About, a series spotlighting leaders, authors, artists, marketers, creators, and entrepreneurs sharing tips and expert advice on business, media, technology, and frankly, life itself. I'm your host, Cynthia Nelson, three-time entrepreneur, Forbes contributor, investor, and advisor. Today, we're talking to what is probably known as Rockstar. I love this. Rockstar CEO of BlueSwitch, Richard Chalme. Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
I know I butchered your name, so you're going to have to give backstory on that in a minute. But first, I kind of want to go into your background and how did you get where you're at? You've been doing this a long time. Like I rarely run into somebody who's been in this as long as I have. And I'm like, oh, you remember when? You remember when we didn't have technology and tools? There was no Shopify. So how did
Yeah.
you get here? Tell me your journey.
Yeah, sure. I'll start when I was 1 years old. No, I'm just joking. It's quite an interesting journey. I grew up in a very tight-knit community and family, and my father had a very successful clothing company called Mark Elliott. It was one of the biggest fashion companies in the 80s, global, like commercials when commercials were a new thing. And
Right.
he in the late 80s, early 90s, he lost his business. And
Wow.
then he rebuilt another business in early 90s, and he was doing production as well as clothing. And he lost that business. He got sick. He lost that business. And I remember sitting with him, and I asked him. I said, like, what do you do now? And I was probably about 16 or 17 at the time, ready to go to college. And he said, let me tell you something. He said, money comes and goes, family's forever. And he said, I've been a millionaire twice over. I've had very successful companies, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. All that matters is family and building, a certain type of life. So it stuck with me. I went to college. I was finishing up college. I went to Brooklyn College locally. I studied abroad for a year as well. And then I was starting to figure out what I want to do. And I was always very much in positions of leadership, whether I liked it or not, whether it was like a basketball team or if I was running like a weekend for young adults, I was always in a leadership position. So I knew in a certain respect that I probably wasn't going to end up working for someone. At the time, entrepreneurs like the buzzword for the last 15
Right.
years. It
Right.
wasn't like, oh, let's be an
Didn't
entrepreneur.
exist.
Yeah, that. Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do. So actually at the time, my father-in-law, who wasn't my father-in-law at the time, I said, how do I figure this out? He said, just take magazines, rip out things that interest you, go to trade shows, go to different things, meet different people, and create a box and see what ends up in that box.
Mhm.
So when it ended up happening, a lot of the things that ended up in that box were media type of things and
Mhm.
technology type of things, and just more what I would call advanced than the regular stuff. And it could have been a cool watch at the time, or it could have been,
Right.
something something cool that they put on a bicycle. It wasn't necessarily tech. Um, and at that time, I started to go to different spots. My brother was working in real estate, and he said, "Listen, I can't give you a job here, but I have a couple projects that maybe you can work as a project manager and spearhead it." He was doing a show at the Javits Center in New York, and he needed a display that had all the different properties that he had. So I told him, okay, I'll look at it. He gave me what he needed to do. I went, I found someone that could do it. They charged me $2,000. I charged him $5,000 and
Right.
I got it done. And then he had another project. And then someone in his office had a friend that had another project. So that started to happen. I was basically flipping deals, figuring out what I wanted to do, but it was all tech based. I went to a pizza store right here downtown New York, and I bumped into my now partner, Alex Paskey, who I knew from school. And he said, what are you doing? I said, I don't know. I'm, flipping these deals. He goes, what do you know about tech? I'm like, not a lot. So he's like, total tech,
Right.
sitting in his computer all day long. He said, he asked me like 20 questions. I knew like a half an answer to one, So he said, how are you doing this? I said, I'm just flipping it and I don't know, I know people and people trust me and you don't need to know the stuff that you're selling. You just need to know how to sell.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward 20 years from that. Now it's not about selling, it's about solutioning. But back then he's like, well, I can do some of this stuff. Why don't we team up and see if we can do it? So I said, okay. So he came in, he was coming off of a dot bomb. It was early 2000.
Hmm.
And all the stuff that I was outsourcing, I started to bring in house. And literally, we each put in $2,500. bought
Hmm.
computers.
Hmm.
We took a spot, that wasn't really rentable at the time. We were trading services for rent. Three guys in a room, and we started BlueSwitch at the time in 2000.
I
So
love it.
that's how it's sort of that's the transition. I'm sure there's a lot of details I'm missing, but
No, that's interesting, but I love the advice your dad gave you of like go out and see a lot of different things. And when you don't know, right? Experiencing a lot of different things. And then I love putting into a box and seeing what actually interests you and bubbles up. I think most people don't take the time to do that and end up going to college, getting a degree, going out and starting to working at it, and then realizing, oh, this sucks.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is not what I really thought it was versus, kind of who they really are and what actually truly interests them may be very, very different.
yeah. And it rings so true because he said at the time, and my father passed when I was young. When I was 25, he ended up passing from lung
Yeah.
cancer. He was only 56.
Uh,
But I find myself quoting him almost every day. So he had a
yeah.
lot of one-liners. So he also
Yeah.
told me that two things. One, you're going to spend more time in the office at certain times than you will in your home. So you better love what you do.
Yeah.
And you could figure that out when you're 21, 22 years old, but not when you're 35 and married with children. You have all these responsibilities.
Right.
So take the time now to do that. And the second thing he said, which really, I would say, shaped the way I live my day to day, is don't wait till you're older to do what you love. Like, don't think you're going to be 50 or 60 and now you're going to, if you love to write music or you love to
Right.
play tennis or you love to, whatever it may be, build it into your days from now,
Mhm.
and find that time because that also will fill you up in a way that will make you happy and enjoy the things that you're doing and quite frankly, work better. So that's something that as I look back now, I realize that it shaped, where I am today.
Right. Right.
But it was invaluable advice in terms of, building the company and my family.
And so Blue Switch
Yeah.
really started with kind of three guys in a garage kind of thing, It's like
Yeah.
a real story about, and it's been what, 25 years
It'll
now?
be 25 in August. The
Oh my gosh.
concept was I loved Blue at the time. There was like JetBlue just came out, Blue Fly. I was a huge Michael Jordan fan. He was North Carolina Blue.
Yeah.
So that was like the color end of it. And then the concept was at that time, it was almost like what AI is now.
Hmm.
Everybody knew tech was something and it had to be incorporated to the business, but they didn't even know where to start.
Right.
The concept was just flip the switch, call Blue Switch, and we'll get it done. And our first website was actually a light switch you came to. You flicked it on. We were using Micromedia Flash, which
Oh
doesn't exist
my. Doesn't
anymore.
even
Yeah,
exist anymore.
exactly. You flipped it on, and it opened up the website. And it was you don't have to worry about how to get it done. Just tell me in business terms what you need,
Right.
and we'll get it done for you. So that was the concept at the time.
That's awesome. You've been in the Shopify world also for a
Yeah.
really long time. And everybody talks about it now like it came out of nowhere, but it's been around a long time. And
Mhm.
you guys were one of the first five
Yeah.
Shopify, agencies, authorized agencies. What is your perspective? You've been 10 years with them now.
Yeah.
What's happening in that industry? What's changed? And I know B2B is now something that's super interesting. So what are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, amazing growth by the
Yeah.
company, and kudos to the leaders there. I mean, it started off. I was in a room with five other agencies, and they were telling us we're going to sell this thing called Shopify Plus, and we're going to
Hmm.
charge people $500 a month
Hmm.
because they're going to get their own domain at checkout. And me being a New Yorker, I raised my hand. I'm like, $500 for your own
Like,
domain? Like, that's not going to fly. I could do that now on GoDaddy. Like, what are
right,
you
right, right.
talking about?
For nothing, for
Like,
99 cents. Yeah.
yeah, what are you talking about? But obviously they had bigger plans in mind. Yeah, so it's been a wild ride. Shopify, the way I describe them is they take no prisoners. They just, spend a ton of money and time and effort in the technology and they build it and they don't release it until they're confident that it's stable. Um, but the real, I think for us as an agency at the time, we're agnostic. We had a custom platform. We were dabbling with Magento partnerships. We're doing stuff in ASP.NET and Microsoft. The differentiator factor there, I think, was two things. One, they took things that I would call reactive, right? If
Mhm.
you wanted to put live chat on your site or you wanted to change your payment gateway, it was like 50, 60, 70, 80 hours of work.
Right,
They made that checkboxes, right? That
right,
was
right.
really a game changer. And the second thing is they were a people focused company.
Mhm.
Till this day, I can Slack or pick up the phone and call the respective people that I need, or they'll get me the people that I need at the company. As you grow, obviously that changes, but as an agency, for us, that was huge because you
Super
never want to tell
important.
your clients no. So if there's
Right,
something that's
right.
going wrong or something
Yeah,
that they need, and
yeah,
you can go to the source and get that information, that's huge. So early on, that was critical, and even to this day, I have very strong relationships with a lot of people within that ecosystem, and I think they see the trends, right?
yeah,
They saw the commerce trend. I
yeah,
think now they're picking up on the POS, the B2B.
yeah.
They see it and they're investing, a ton of money into it. So the companies that are using their platform, they don't have to invest that money. They just can ride the tailwinds of, the research and development department at Shopify.
Super interesting. It's been, like I said, a rocket ship in the last 5 years to really see them grow, and so many companies, massive. I mean, besides the millions of small companies that are on it, the massive companies that are coming over. I just saw him post yesterday, Harley, about Pretemps, which is the new fashion store just down on one wall, which I went
Yeah,
to
right across the
yesterday.
street. Should
Yes,
have visited us. It's right here.
I was there yesterday just to kind of snoop around. And they went on it. This is a huge old luxury, very high end luxury department store has gone on Shopify Plus as well, and it's just amazing to see that growth. But let's pivot back to, you talk about B2B, because people always kind of forget
Yeah,
B2B. It's like D2C, D2C, D2C,
yeah.
and B2B. What are you seeing as growth in that area?
So I think one of the things that Shopify became known for, and I think it yields the growth in that area, their their APIs are very strong in terms of being able to connect. So putting that aside, just B2B in general,
Mhm.
you can look up these stats. I think it's like 83% of all consumers are shopping online. 70% of businesses are buying the product for their stores online.
Right.
So, and now you're dealing with millennials who are going to be the new buyers and the new
Yep.
representatives at these
Yep.
companies. So B2B is definitely it's in its infancy, in my
Mhm.
opinion. You have a whole world of companies within manufacturing and
Mhm.
trade that really have not embraced, so to speak, the B2B commerce model because they're still on old systems,
Yeah.
or they have, the old sales reps and they're doing
Yeah.
either, faxes or purchase orders in the old
Yeah.
school way of doing things. I think the biggest hindrance for that area of business in terms of B2B commerce is always the tech stack.
Yeah.
How do I even begin to
Right.
figure out price tiering and multiple shipping and all these different terms
Right.
and not only UPS and FedEx but LTL and
Yep.
trucking.
Yep.
So the B2B world really the conversation starts at a totally different spot. It almost starts at the end of where B2C starts.
Hmm.
And the opportunity there, in my opinion, is really tremendous. And I think they're starting to embrace it because they realize not only can we service our existing customers more, but we also can now pick up new customers that we never even thought of. And we're seeing it specifically in a lot of different areas where you would have what's called like field reps that are out in the field with their
Right.
iPads, and now
Right.
they're on the job and they realize they need to reorder something or they need a different part. They don't want to wait till they go back to their office the next
Right.
day or send it to their parts order. They want to go on the iPad, access it, log in, order it, and have it in a day or two to complete their jobs.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting change for sure, because there's all those legacy ERP systems, and it's a tangled web, right? That's there, but they have to untangle in order to be competitive. This kind of leads me into this kind of crazy volatile time for brands right now, right?
Yeah.
There's lots of disruption in the marketplace, big bankruptcy filings from major retailers and
Yeah.
other companies around, some being bought up, some not. Who knows what's going to happen to TikTok? That's like the bouncing ball.
I saw
Um,
Amazon put a bid in the other day.
Amazon put a bid in
Yeah.
last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stock market, fluctuations, tech up, tech down. Tariffs we can't even go into because I don't even know where to start with that
I
one.
get phone calls every day on the tariffs. It's crazy.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
But what are some of the trends or maybe warning sign founders should be paying attention to right now in this time period? It's not like we haven't seen volatile times before. We
Yeah.
have, but what's your advice?
I think it's, these times, like we started BlueSwitch in the dot bomb, like
Right,
really when
right.
things were terrible.
Yeah.
And I think most people that can take a step back and look at things objectively and they can focus in on what they're great at, now's the time to do that, right? Because you can get caught up in a lot of the hype of different things coming at you, AI, there's tons of stuff that always come at you, whatever business you're in. But if you can focus on what you're great at and really build within that, I think now is a great time to do that because what's going to happen is, and again, not to discount anybody's companies, there's companies that have been around forever and now they're
Yeah.
tanking or whatever it
Yeah.
is. But the weaker companies are going to be consolidated or be bought
Yeah.
out or be restructured,
Yeah.
which means there's going to be room and opportunities in different areas. So I look at this time as, there's a great book, 10 times is better than two times, or
Hmm.
something like that. And the concept, the theory is very simple. It's list everything that you do. And let's say there's 15 things on that list. Just focus on the top three and put
Hmm.
all your energies into those top three. And you'll probably get to 10 times quicker than you'll get to two times because you're not spread so thin. So
Yeah.
I think now's the time. There's definitely opportunities that are created in a time like this. But if you have an existing business, it's take a step back. What are we great at? It's very hard
Very
um,
hard.
to decide between great and good. Much easier
Yeah.
between great and bad, right?
Yep. Yep.
What am I great at and what am I good at? Put the good stuff aside and
Yeah.
just focus in on the great. And you may lose opportunities on the good. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
sort of the way I look at
That
it.
the focus piece, I think, when things are volatile is very, very difficult to do. It's easy when everything's going well to sit back and watch it and have conversations. But when things are volatile in the market and companies are having loss of revenue or boycotts on buying things at
Yeah.
their stores, and how do they react and adjust in a way that doesn't hurt their business but again holds true to their values and what they're really known for. And the best companies do spend more during that time period because their competitors are continuously shrinking budgets and pulling back on advertising and pulling back on doing new things and pulling back on innovation, when in fact it's a great time to, like you said, refocus on what you do really well and pour everything into those areas and continue to grow and
Yeah. And
survive, frankly.
yeah, and I think you will find efficiencies that happen because of that,
Yep,
right? Because there's
I
certain
think so
things,
too.
like we say it all the time, we're solutioning out this, a major integration. Many times companies are always focusing on 2% of
Yeah,
their clients and trying to
right.
figure out the technical processes for that. And we're like, forget about them. Let's go with the 98% and do the 2% manually, even if you have to, or you'll deal with that later. But
Right.
there's so much more to focus on, and you're driving yourself crazy on that 2%. Put it aside for now. Let's nail down everything that we need, and then you could always layer it in after.
Yeah, definitely. And this kind of is a good segue into AI. I
Yeah,
call it EI, EIO, AI. It's everywhere. I use it all the time. I happen to love it. I've learned how to train the model that I have in ChatGPT to do the things I need to do quickly and efficiently. It saves me, 80% of time. I mean, it's the time saving side of it is just phenomenal.
yeah.
But how do you think it's going to affect e-commerce brands? Like, what are you seeing with AI? What are people doing? I mean, chatbots obviously are one piece, but what
Yeah.
else is going to be happening?
So I think so we're embracing it. What that means, I can't tell you, exactly precisely, but we're embracing it. My partner Alex every day is looking at different tools. We have part of our weekly meetings is how to use AI better in marketing, how to use it better within programming, design. So we're definitely embracing the tools that are out there. I do think there's a little bit of a saturation that's happening with AI, right? How
Mhm.
many times are you going to get an email that said, "Oh, you went to Brooklyn College too? Let's
Yeah,
talk
oh my
about
gosh.
your
Yeah,
HR."
no,
I'm like,
yeah,
so
yeah,
there's definitely be that
exactly.
saturation that'll start to fade out, but I think everyone is going to need to have an AI story, right? They're going to have some type of model in their business that helps them, whatever level that is, helps them be
Right.
more efficient. I do believe that it's going to create more jobs, not less jobs, because I believe once it becomes stabilized and becomes what I'll call a standard, the same way, 20
Yep,
years ago, an
yep.
ERP, people were doing stuff on paper. Now all of a sudden I need an ERP, and now all of a sudden you have,
Right.
people working within that system. I think it's going to create more jobs because once you figure out how to use those efficiencies, people are just going to be working smarter, not harder.
Yep.
So I think that that'll start to happen. I'm not a futurist. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know where it's going to go, but I think if you don't embrace it and you don't start to have some type of learning within your own business,
Right.
then that will hurt you, right? You can't fight it, so to speak.
And the next generation is already using it like crazy.
like
They
crazy.
know more about it. I always tell people if you don't have a millennial on your board, you're dumb because they actually are going to be bringing fresh ideas, new things, and know a lot more than the people running the company. Not the business side of it, but
Yeah.
what's new, what's interesting, and where that innovation inside of a company it's going to come from.
Yeah, like my daughter who's 15 came home with a great homework the other day. The homework was, what prompt would you put in to create the following essay?
That's very interesting.
Right? So instead of denying that the students are using this and doing
Right.
whatever, they're now, training the mind to understand, how do I use the tool?
How to use a tool in the right way.
Yep,
And I think there's some guard rules that are going to come out for kids sooner than later because
sure.
it's as good as it can be in good, but you can do a lot of bad things with it as well. I've never put
100%.
anything weird inside of it, but I can only imagine, you know, what it would come out with,
Yeah,
you
100%.
know.
And everything's like that, right? There's always that good and negative side to thing. And if you use
Yeah.
it in the positive, you're building, and if you're not, you're
Yeah.
destroying. So
Yeah, totally. So the last name. So it's see, I was like Timothy Chalamet.
yeah,
It's Chalamet. I always had like that in my head, but it's not. It's
yeah,
Chalamet. But
yeah.
what's the origin? What's
Origin, yeah. So my grandfather came from Syria to America,
mm-hmm,
and his name was actually Shama,
mm-hmm,
but he didn't know how to read or write. But when he walked into a room, they used to say Shalom, Shalom, it's done. It
uh-huh,
means, in Arabic, it means complete,
mm-hmm.
meaning don't even try with this guy. The sale is closed.
Yeah.
So when he came over to Ellis Island and they interviewed him, they said, "What's your name?" He said, "I'm Chalme."
Yeah.
Chalme, like it's because he that was his nickname.
Right,
So
right.
they wrote, but his name was Raymond. So Raymond Chalme. They gave him that last name, and that was it. And that was it. Yeah. So it's a wild story, but yeah, he didn't know how to read or write, but I've heard stories from his friends, and children of his friends, that he used to walk into a room, and when he would leave, he'd have everything in his head. So whoever was waiting there, he'd tell them, "Can you please do me a favor? Can you write this down for me?" And he'd tell them, 12 polo shorts, 12 shorts, and he'd give it
Yeah.
to them, and then he'd walk out with the paper and
Yeah.
bring it back to the office and tell them, "This is the order we got."
That's incredible. I mean, you come from a full, your third generation entrepreneur, which is really amazing and delightful. And I know that there are a lot of entrepreneurs and business people that are out there that are going to love listening to this podcast. But Richard, it's been really, really great talking to you. I love you guys at Blue Switch, as you know. I think you guys are smart. I love the fact you've been around 25 years. I'm incredibly happy that you've been with Shopify so long because you know the good, the bad, and the ugly and how to get things done. So thank you so much
Appreciate
for
it. It was
being on the
my
show.
my pleasure, my honor, and we love you and we love the podcast. So keep doing what you're doing, and we appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay.